So with that, I'm going to pass it right over to Minister Calandra to get started, and then we will go to Minister Downey, and then we'll
recording in progress. Recording in progress.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks, Shannon, and thank you, everybody. It's nice to be back with you again. It has been a very exciting and I think very eventful year for us this year. Certainly since the last time that we were all together. It has been a challenging year in many respects, but also a really good forward-looking year. If you look at what the Premier has been able to accomplish in terms of economic development, job creation, the amount of investments that we're bringing to the province, tackling head-on the challenges that we're seeing right now in the United States south of the border, really taking a leadership role in the absence of any leadership coming out of Ottawa. On the housing front, where we've been really busy working with our municipal partners to remove the obstacles that are getting in the way of many people building homes. We always knew that this would be a bit of a challenging year, just given the interest rate increases. But as they're coming down, we're starting to see some very good signs of a return to a healthy housing market. But we didn't stop. When the interest rates went up, as we said last time, we refocused on getting infrastructure in the ground so that we could meet the challenge head on as interest rates started to come down. So, look, I'm very optimistic. A lot of things that are happening in the province of Ontario. I'll just touch on one last point before I send it to Minister Downey. I know there's in the last couple of weeks we made a significant announcement on taking immediate action on encampments across the province of Ontario. We've heard really loud and clear from the people of the province of Ontario and from many municipal partners, not necessarily all of them, but from many of them, that they wanted more tools to help return their parks to where they belong, to the people and to the kids. So we've made significant investments in that, investments in affordable housing, and investments to help our municipalities clear out encampments. Minister Downey and I are working together on that. So, look, I'm very optimistic of the weeks and months ahead. And again, I want to thank you guys for all of your hard work. It is certainly a pleasure to be back with you again, with all of you. And with that, I guess I turn it over to Minister Downey. Shannon?
Yeah, thank you, Minister Calandra. Look, this has been an exciting year, and a lot of the fundamentals we put in place, the hard work that we did earlier, are starting to bear fruit. And you can see that when it comes to economic development and the kinds of businesses that we're attracting to Ontario, the expansions that we're seeing with businesses that are already in Ontario. And so a lot of the systems challenges that we inherited, we're starting to see progress on. And we may get into some of those in the questions, but you know, we're really, Mr. Calandra is being a bit modest in terms of his relationship with municipalities and the variety of things that he's brought forward to move us together as a team. And it is difficult sometimes when our federal counterparts aren't available or doing their part, but we push on them, and we're still pushing, and we will not give up on things like bail reform and the auto theft. We are making progress. But there's more to be done, and we need that federal partner there. But our municipal partners are coming to the table for other challenges like the encampments and whatnot. So, you know, I'm optimistic as we close out the year that a lot of the things that we've done, decisions we've made, are starting to turn into success. And I'm really looking forward to starting the new year with a good base.
All right. Thank you so much. So with that, I'm going to go right to questions. I'm going to start with Nitin at Prime Asia.
Thank you, Shannon. Good morning, Minister. This is Nitin from Prime Asia. Minister, it's a good announcement of the investment of 75.5 million for removing the encampments. We went inside the creeks, we went inside the encampments many times, and we have seen that situation is worse there. And your government already announced this investment. What is the plan? For last couple of years, how much the regions or the government spend to remove this homelessness? Because the drugs are there, addictions are there, the syringes are there, the thefts, these people, they don't have the IDs. Even police went inside the camps. Yesterday also, still the encampments are there into the creeks, inside the residential areas. What is the government plan? How will they remove them from there? Because still, as of today, there is no action has been taken by any region or any police forces. Thank you.
Yeah, and then a really good question, and I think you hit the nail on the head on a number of pieces here. One of the challenges that we know is that in many of these encampments, they've become as much as there are many people living with mental health and addictions, and I think we all agree that's not a place for people with mental health and addictions. They should be receiving care and they should have housing. But we also know, and our police have told us that in many of these encampments, there are elements of criminality that have moved into many of these encampments, and that is why we've put the tool on the table with respect to more enforcement tools for municipalities and for policing. But at the same time, we have a court decision that we were dealing with that says that we can't empty out encampments unless we provide appropriate housing for those who are in the encampments. So the $75 million, it allows our municipal partners to do a number of things. First, we're going to invest in last mile funding housing. So affordable housing that is so close to getting in the ground, but they need just a little extra boost. So we're going to do that, and it's shovel-ready projects. But we're also then providing money for our municipal partners who will commit. It's not just that we're giving them money. They're going to have to commit to clearing out the encampment. We will give money so that the encampment can be cleared out, money so that the encampment site can be cleaned, and that they can continue to monitor the encampment site. And let me be clear, we will not provide funding to a municipality or to a partner that doesn't agree to clear out the encampment. Full stop. This is about clearing out the encampments, getting people the help that they need who are in them, and really then dealing with the lawlessness that has creeped into many of these encampments. And if our partners work with us, we'll work with them and provide the funding. If they don't, we will not fund them. We want these encampments gone. We want the people that need help to get help. And we want the criminality that has creeped into so many of these places to be dealt with. And our police have said, give us some extra tools to deal with it, and they will deal with it. And so I think you really did hit the nail on the head of the challenge that we're seeing on this. So we're working right now. All of our municipal partners have received a letter from us already saying, this is the money that is available. This is the pledge that you're going to have to make, and this is the result that we want. And over the next 2 weeks, we're going to get applications from them, and we are going to move very, very, very quickly. So over the next, and this is money that flows right now. I'll just say this is immediate money that is flowing. We're not having to wait for months. It flows immediately. And the end result, Nitin, really is exactly as you say, clear out the encampments, give the parks and communities, and even our downtowns. I mean, we started to see it in many of the downtowns across the province as well. So that is the end goal of this.
Thank you, Minister. My follow-up is for Attorney General. Minister, when will you fix the LTB issue? Because right now, what is happening, it must be in your knowledge that if a landlord wins a case in the LTB board, there is no enforcement. Then the landlord has to go to the small court, because many of the cases, we have numerous cases with us, and we can share those with you when this government can fix this LTB issue, because then the landlord has to go to the small court, and then many times the landlord does not have the address of the defaulter, and in that case he has to search, and police don't help in these cases. Why can't we save the resources, make LTB a king, a lion, so that they can only one court can resolve all the issues, and enforcement is a big issue. Many landlords are there with the orders of LTB, but they don't know where to go after that because there is no enforcement. How can you fix this issue, Minister?
So thanks. And this is a great example of the previous investment starting to bear fruit, because the conversation a year ago would have been, I can't get a hearing. So let alone what can I do with my order now that I have it? And so our hearings for non-payment of rent have dropped. The timing has dropped dramatically. It used to be 9, 10 months. We're now down to 3 months from filing to hearing, and our backlog has come down over 30%. And so we're on track there because we doubled the number of adjudicators, we invested in a back office system, we did all that stuff. So in terms of next improvements, as we get the backlog completely cleared, happy to have a conversation about that, about should the LTB have jurisdiction that the small claims has, so that you can issue an order and do collection straight away. Happy to have that. That would be an improvement. So it's not so much that it's not working; it's that nobody's given them that power. So I have somebody online here who's taking notes, and we can visit that as a policy issue. But you're absolutely right. We've got to get people. We got the landlords in a spot where they're seeing results. We're not frustrating them by providing housing. I firmly believe that when we get the landlord-tenant board working properly, we will unlock 100,000 units minimum, where people like yourself may say, I'm just not comfortable entering the market. I don't feel that I have the supports in place for it. So we want to solve that. So I noted your idea, and we'll put that on the policy development table.
Thank you, Minister.
All right. Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Rami with Oxygen Talk Show.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And actually, I would like to ask about a question that I received from my viewers or audience about the drugs that have been distributed on the schools and in news gatherings. Actually, it becomes a very threatening to our youth and children, especially that they cannot even call the police because there are some gangs who are controlling those type of communities like schools, and there is among them there are students who make trades with the other students in the drugs, and it becomes very threatening environment. And actually, I understand that our Premier Doug Ford did a great effort with the police for trying to control the C-75 law of the federal and such stuff. I attended many times, but the conclusion is our kids in schools are not safe. They cannot even report this to the police because they have been threatened and beaten, some of them to a very dangerous levels. They've been beaten and threatened if they talk to the police. So we need an immediate plan to make our kids in schools, especially secondary schools and high schools, are safe. Thank you very much.
So I can start with this one if you want, Mr. Calandra. Yeah. So a couple of things have to change. We are slowly getting back to a position where school boards are allowing police into the schools as community officers. That's a really important piece of the puzzle. We need to make sure that they're in tune with what's happening in that environment, and that they're available in a discreet way sometimes. So that's one part. School boards are all different on this, and we're seeing some successes, but it's not across the board, and it needs to be. The second piece is the federal government has sent the federal government has sent a directive to prosecutors not to prosecute certain types of drug activity. And the federal government does the drug prosecution. So when they sent that out to their prosecutors and said, don't prosecute these types of drug crimes, that sends a message to the police, don't bother arresting them because they're not going to go anywhere. And that has to change. We've asked the federal government to change that. And you mentioned Bill C-75. We have asked several times, along with our counterparts in other jurisdictions, Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba and others, to say, why did you entrench a Supreme Court decision and take it even further in Bill C-75? And we've asked them to reverse that. We haven't seen any progress in that regard. And the response is generally, well, we just codified what was already the law under the Supreme Court, and we disagree. We think that they can be more proactive than that. And so those pieces have to move. At the same time, as you well know, the Premier and our government have been very supportive of giving the police the tools they have, expanding boots on the ground, and making sure that we have the resources there to do the job. But we are literally a little handcuffed on some of these pieces.
Thank you very much. A follow up. What do the parents do, or if their kids have been threatened and in a very threatening environment? If the police cannot respond, I know that you are working hard slowly to involve the police on the boards and such stuff. But for the current situation, what do you suggest for the kids and their parents to do?
Yeah, so if it's not a matter of the drug use directly, and it's either assaults, it's threats of assaults, intimidation, any sort of other crime. Really, I think the parents do need to engage the police on it. They need to explain what's happening, and they need to, with as much evidence as they can, any sort of intimidation, extortion, that sort of thing. The police do have the tools to try and deal with that.
All right. Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Bill with Greca TV.
Thank you, both ministers, for addressing us today. I wish you happy Christmas. I'll ask my questions at the same time for both ministers so I can give more opportunity to my colleagues to ask a question. Minister Calandra, good to see you again. Last time you addressed us, you spoke to us about the issue of the homelessness and the balance, broader strategy, how to face homeless and those drug addicts that need more help through the heart hubs and other programs. I know you said you have the legal impediment to remove them, and this $75.5 million will go a long way towards that end. And I understand this is still part of the 700 million the government will be investing on an ongoing basis in this area every year, every single year. I know it's difficult, but besides the concern to remove them from encampments, how about the other programs in terms of find them accommodation, where to live, and what about the other addiction treatment programs are proceeding? That's my question to you. And for Minister Downey, good to see you. Can you please tell us very briefly, and I know this is a balanced, broader strategy, as I said, but can you tell us a few things about the Trespass to Property Act, how that is going to help in this area? And my second question to you is that, and I know this is not the best time to address the federal government, but are you satisfied with your negotiations and lobbying with the federal government for amendments to the criminal code with respect to repeated breakers of bail terms and also the Youth Justices Act in these areas, which is very difficult to detain someone? Thank you both.
Thanks, Bill, and good to see you again as well. I'll go first, Mr. Downey. Just Bill, we're actually at over $1.2 billion now in dealing with homelessness in the province of Ontario. So we significantly increased the investment. The 75.5 million is over and above, but what we're doing with the 75.5 million is really targeting it specifically to clearing out encampments. And in a way that allows us to go into the encampments, our partners, our municipalities, to go into the encampments, see who is in them, what type of housing that they need, and to be able to address that locally. And we, the province, is saying that we will only do that if you agree then to clear out the encampments. We'll give you the money to clear out the encampments. We'll give the supports that are needed for those that are in the encampments. And then we do have the tool that Minister Downey will talk about on the Trespass to Property Act. We do have a tool that will give our police and our municipal partners more power to ensure that those encampments stay cleared afterwards. It's such a complex issue, but I'll say this. At some point in time, the investments have to generate the results that we want. We went from 700 million to over 1.2 billion dollars now in supports, and I don't think when you ask people, I don't think they are seeing the benefit of those investments. I think a lot of people are still seeing in some communities encampments in parks. They're seeing some challenges in downtowns, even in small communities. Right, they're starting to see their downtowns and they're with encampments, and they're worried about it. So what we're now saying is, look, we had a court case. We're going to honor what the court has asked us to do, provide the funding specifically to clear out encampments and give the services that are required. The hard hubs are there, the last mile funding is there, and specific resources to clear out encampments, clean up the encampments, and keep them clean once and for all. But at the same time, Bill, I hate to always go back, but I remember back in 2015 when I was a federal member, and there was a lot of discussion about legalizing marijuana, being more easy on people, the decriminalizing drugs, not enforcing the laws, just as the Attorney General said. And a lot of people, myself included, said that this would lead to exactly where we are at today. It is not only that we need to provide more resources, we need a federal government to get back on track and to also then put the tools in place that will allow us to prosecute so that we can actually give people the help that they need, and that this is not normal. This should not be normalized in one of the richest countries in the world. And that is what our investments and our targeted investment is all about. Taking back our streets, taking back our parks, saying to the federal government, we're honoring a court decision. Now it's up to you to give us the additional tools that we need to keep our communities safe and give people the help that they need. Under what world does anybody think that somebody who is suffering from mental health and addictions should be in a park? And at the same time, that somebody who wants to take advantage of them should be able to do it from inside an encampment. It's just absolutely asinine. It cannot continue. And we have to really, sorry, Bill, you get me all riled up on this, because it's just not the way we should be. So we're gonna end it, but we do need the feds. We need them to get on board. I mean, they need to stop this chaos that they have there and to really put their focus back on communities. So I'll turn it over to the Attorney General. I'm sure he'll have a much better answer than me on it.
No, I'm just going to build on what Minister Calandra said. Look, the Trespass to Property Act, what we've done in this package that we brought forward is to allow the continuation of a trespass. So some of the actors in these encampments, they continue to trespass when they've already been charged or told not to, or they're likely to continue, and those can become what are called aggravating factors for the judge to consider, to make sure that the fine or whatnot is dealt with accordingly. That there's a little bit more oomph in it, and so a little bit more of a tool, so it's a little more effective. And so that's what we've done in the Trespass to Property Act, in brief. And what we're proposing to do. It's at first reading, but I anticipate, of course, that we'll be in that space. The second question you had was about, am I content with what the federal government's doing with changes to the criminal code and bail and that sort of thing? Look, we pushed. The Premier started the conversation way back with a letter signed by all the other premiers and territorial leaders. I took that to Ottawa with a meeting of all the AGs, and the federal government adopted some changes on reverse onus. But it was so obvious it should be done that it was unanimously supported in the House federally. We've asked for more. We've asked for significant change. There's a couple of things they floated in the FES that was introduced on Monday that may never see the light of day, but even that's not enough. Like they have to get serious about what's actually happening on the ground, what's actually happening in people's communities, and so we're probably further ahead of the federal government on actual solutions, but they hold the pen. So no, I'm not happy that they've adequately addressed this.
Thank you both.
All right. Next, I'm going to go to Alan at Fairchild Radio.
Thank you for the invitation and happy holidays and Merry Christmas to Minister Calandra and Minister Downey. I have face-to-face opportunity to conversation with the encampments individuals and also the organization. My take is wraparound support is the key to address the root cause. So mental health care, affordable housing, job assistance. So I just want to know if the current government have any concrete example or plan to address this course by supporting wraparound support.
Yeah, so good question, and I agree with you. It is wraparound services that are required, and that's why we're aggressively moving on the Heart Hub model. Much of the investments that we're making in the $1.2 billion of investments, we're now saying to our municipal partners that these investments have to include, when it comes to homelessness and addiction, more wraparound services. We work with Minister Parsa and Minister Jones on that. So we really are directing for wraparound services for those dealing with mental health and addictions. Now, specifically in encampments, Alan, a vast majority of those it is mental health and addiction issues that they are faced with in the encampments, right? And that's not dealt with by continuing to service people in an encampment. It's dealt with by removing them from that encampment and providing the help that they need. But also, as we said earlier, criminality has found its way into many of these encampments, and our police know this. So we can make a difference between those who are using encampments to either traffic or deal drugs, and those who are in the encampments who actually need help and want help. And that's what the 75 million is about, providing immediate access to additional help. We have many examples in communities that we're supporting where wraparound services have made a huge difference. I was in St. Catharines over the summer, where they have I may have told you this story already, but they took a trailer, a big, massive work trailer from Alberta where the oil rig workers work. They brought it to St. Catharines, and it is wraparound services. And you can see the difference from one end of the trailer to the next, right? I don't want it's a small thing. It is a work trail. So there's kitchens there's washing machines, it's everything. You come in on the right-hand side of this trailer, it's where people are at their worst, they're at their lowest, right? They're heavily addicted. But as you progress through the trailer, you can see the progression of the person as well. The rooms go from very messy to then you start to see some organization as they continue their journey through with wraparound services. By the time you get to the end of this trailer, their rooms are clean. They're not there during the day because they're working. They're back to being productive members of our communities. And that is why we're so aggressive on saying to our municipal partners, no more of just doing what you're doing. Like we've tried that, it does not work. If you want our money, if you want our resources, if you want our help, you have to agree to providing the services that will ultimately get somebody off of the addictions and get them the help that they need so that they can progress to becoming productive members. And there are those, Alan, too, that just for one reason or another, they won't get there. But they shouldn't be in a park. We have supports for people on that. That's where the housing comes into play. That's where the disability support programs come into play. All things that we can't do when somebody is in a park and when our communities think that we can't intervene because people should have the right to live in a park. People do have the right in this country to live wherever they want. But they also, the government has a responsibility to provide safe communities for people and to provide help and resources for those who maybe don't always know that they need it. But we have a responsibility to do this, and that's why everybody's hitting the nail on the head. It's about wraparound services. It's about providing the help they need, and showing people what we have available to them, and then saying to our municipal partners who deliver these services, if you want our help, if you want our investment, then you have to do things differently, and we expect results for the money that we're investing. Look, when we did saying that you couldn't have safe injection sites near schools and daycares, many of our municipal partners are still fighting us on this. They're still fighting us on this. And I think most people in community will say this is just common sense, right? So we're just being much more aggressive on this because, as I said, we've tried it their way. And all we have seen since 2015 is a worsening of the situation across Canada. And I think most of us provincially have said, we've had enough. The feds, you need to do better. Municipalities, you need to do better. And we need to do better. And we're going to by stepping up, by providing more resources. But ultimately, people just want their streets and their parks and their communities back. They're just done with all of this. And I think we have to deliver now for them.
All right. Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Jasleen at PTC Punjabi.
Hi, Minister. Thank you for your time. My question is, do we have a specific deadline or target by when these encampments will be permanently removed?
Yeah, so we are sending out notices and have already gone out to our municipal partners saying what funding is available to them, and we want them to move as quickly as possible. The reason we've done it in two steps is so there are the money to provide the resources and the wraparound services is there right now. The tool that Minister Downey is talking about, the additional enforcement tools, that's on the table and will be made available when the House passes it in March. We've done this purposely, to be honest with you, because we wanted to provide the resources and the help needed now, but let people know, our municipal partners know, and communities know that there will be added tool afterwards. If you do not do what we want to have done and what people have told us they want to have done over the next number of weeks, then we will have an additional tool, enforcement tool, to continue to make progress. So it is my expectation that you will start to see encampments being cleared in those communities that are working with us. I want to preface that. Only in those communities that work with us. And I will be very vigilant in letting people know the communities that are working with us and those that have chosen to continue doing the same thing that they have been doing. I think people have the right to know which communities have decided to participate, and those that think going in the same way is the right path. I obviously don't agree with that, but it's my expectation to start to see some changes very, very soon.
Thank you.
All right. Next, I'm going to go to Logan at Uthaya Newspaper.
Good morning, Minister. You hear me, Shannon? All right. Good morning, Minister Paul Calandra and the Attorney General, Honorable Downey. I think he's also the minister responsible for anti-criminal activities, I hope, the Attorney General, because I remember. Yes, my question is very simple, but the issues are creating more issues in the community. You know, ministers, here in Canada, the drug users becoming drug offenders, you know. A lot of criminal activities we could see every day. For example, you know, the Delta Hotel on Canadian 401 used to be a very prestige hotel, a five-star hotel. I remember I have met many prime ministers in the hotel, having had meetings in their very exclusive rooms. So that hotel became the shelter of the drug users. But beside that, there are about 7 condos where the IT professionals and high tech and a lot of very decent people are. They occupy all the condos. So when I visit some of my friends, the environment is completely changed. It changed the beauty of the place, beauty of the city. So my question is to both ministers, something is about the housing too, because I heard the hotel is going to be taken over back, and is going to be operating with a different name, I heard. So where are the current drug users or the drug addicted people to be moved? Do you have any housing places, houses or any projects available for him, or they will be gone again to the street? And due to the three sectors or three criminal activities, auto theft, jewelry shop being looted, and the drug users becoming drug offenders, Canada and the province, our province is becoming where the immigrants, they come here, they think and they trust that it's the best country and best province to live. But now it is the both are worst province and the worst country is becoming. So I need your answers, ministers.
Well, I can start on that, and I can tell you this is why we are doing what we're doing. We are committed to staying and being the best province and the best country in the world. We are putting investments in place for the auto theft. I'll start with that. We're seeing some progress in Durham that auto theft is down by a little bit. We have a ways to go, but this is organized crime. This is not your neighborhood kids out stealing a car. This is an organized effort by organized crime that has having all sorts of spin-offs, and it's funding guns, and guns are coming across the border. It's unbelievable how porous the border is. And we've been calling on the federal government to man the border, to put the scanners in place, to do the things they're supposed to do. And we're not there yet. We have a lot of work to do to protect our borders. We need to be funding our police, and we are. And we're putting several new forces are expanding. You saw us most recently give supports to municipalities that have OPP. We're doing a lot of that, but we're not just doing that. We're doing it upline as well. For the courts, we've appointed 25 more judges to the complement added, which is a historic addition, and we've already got people in seats on that. I already have 6 judges who are sitting, hearing matters as we speak that weren't even 4 months ago. And we're putting investments across the system to make sure that we can hold people to account. The jewelry thefts as well, they're small rings. Again, they're not neighborhood kids who are up to no good. This is organized crime funding illegal activity. And the drug use, we mentioned it a little bit earlier. The federal government has to turn the dial. They have to turn the dial on this. They're the ones who brought in legalization of cannabis. And because of the way the Constitution's structured, we're obligated to manage that. So we are going after that black market in particular to make sure that we're not further funding organized crime and illegal activity. We 100%, or as the Premier would say, I'm 1,000% committed to making sure that Ontario is and stays the best province and the best country in the world.
So Lauren, I'll just say I didn't realize that's what had become of the Delta. To be honest with you, yeah, we had a lot of events and things that happened at the Delta. But I'll say this: you can't move people out who are receiving support from one location without having another location available for them to go to. So that is an absolute must. But just to follow up on what the Attorney General is saying, he's right. I mean, the Attorney General's put way more money into the courts. We're building more courts, hiring more judges, more justices of the peace. We're hiring thousands of police officers. I think the Ontario Police College, if I'm not mistaken, has an entirely is new cadre of people. Like it never has a vacation. It is constantly getting more classes out. We're hiring thousands more police officers. We've had to go it alone on the border, frankly, on a number of instances by dispatching our own people to the border. But there's no surprise. Like it's going to sound horribly political, and maybe this is just sour grapes from somebody who used to be in the federal government and was defeated. But when we left in 2015, Logan, when I was defeated in 2015, we had one of the safest countries. Crime was down. Gun crime was down. We did not have the challenges. We didn't have encampments. We didn't have the out of control drug challenges. We had police officers in schools, and I'm not saying it was perfect, but our economy was growing. There was stability. We had just signed a free trade agreement with Europe, and things started to change when a different attitude came. When you started to legalize, when cannabis became legalized, a lot of us said it would become a gateway to other problems, and it has. Many said you have to secure the border. Like, for crying out loud, how many times does the Attorney General have to go to Ottawa and say you have to secure the border? This is what I'm seeing in my courts, and they do nothing. I mean, yes, great. They announced $1 billion the other day on border security. We have the longest border. Like, it is insane that they only gave $1 billion for this in response to a challenge from the United States, right? So we have to get. Ontario is serious, and we have been serious right from the beginning, taking the path of yes, help where needed, but law and order is very, very important, and tackle the small things to get at the big things. And now we just need a federal government that will go back to taking it serious. Stop hugging the thugs and let's start putting them in jail. Because clearly the hugging the thugs didn't work. That's why we're building more jails, more court capacity, more police officers. If you're creating trouble and crime, you're going to jail. But if you need help, we're also going to be there for you. And now we just need a federal government that will take that serious as well.
All right, thank you. Now I know we're getting a little tight on time. I have 2 more questions, so I'm just gonna go to Isha at Y Media.
Hello, everyone. This is Isha from Y Media Group. Am I audible? Sure, thank you. Hello, ministers. Thank you for addressing us today. So my question is to both the ministers. Any specific measures that are being put in place to train or for the law enforcement officers, any guidance for them to handle cases involving homelessness and drug use with a focus on rehabilitation and community support rather than solely on enforcement? Because I think compassion and consideration are also important with enforcement.
Yeah, I'll just start on that quickly. 100%, and that is why the funding that we put in the announcement that we made the other day puts the funding in place first, the money in place for additional help, wraparound services, affordable housing, so that it's an immediate impact. And that is why we've also then delayed the more aggressive tools to clear out encampments until March. Right, so the Attorney General has put that on. We've put that on the table, but it has to be twofold, right? So at the same time as we're bringing in the heart hubs for additional wraparound services, additional money for housing, immediate housing, affordable housing, and additional money to expand shelter capacity, we are delaying the hardcore enforcement until March because we want to show that we will help. But if our communities aren't going to work with us, we need the extra tools. And the extra tools really are for, if I can say this, Isha, it is because as we've really discovered as we're working with law enforcement, that, yeah, there are a lot of people who need help in the encampments. Mental health and addiction is a vast majority, but far too often, criminality has creeped into it. You get people who are dealing and they're using the encampments and the people in the encampments to deal drugs or other illegal things because they feel that they're they're off limits in an encampment. And so that is why that's why we've done it in the way that we have structured it to do both. If that makes sense. I don't know if the Attorney General wants to comment at all, but you're 100% right. There's no point in being tough if you don't provide services for people, right? And that's what this is all about.
Yeah, I 100%, of course, I agree, but we have a track record on this too. This isn't just concept. We have what are called justice centers, which are courts with wraparound services, and they've been in place. Our government put them in a few years ago. We have 4. We have one in London, one in Kenora, 2 in Toronto, one up Rexdale area, and one more downtown east. And we are seeing the results of having wraparound services for those who are in a position and who are willing to take the help. And that's really what we're doing here, is saying to people who wants to take the help, let's get them the help, and then we'll deal with the individuals who are preying on those people.
Thank you, ministers, for answering my question, and happy holidays to everybody.
All right, thank you. So this will be our last question. If we didn't get to you or have any more questions following this, please email me and I'll make sure that they reach the ministers and we can get you responses. So with that, I'm going to go to Ramanan with East FM. Oh, you just have to unmute there.
Thank you, Shannon. Good morning, ministers. I have 2 questions for both ministers. One about the youth crimes. The community are very concerned, mostly the Tamil community, about the teens involved in criminal activities. Like Mr. Logan has mentioned about so many things, as well as the group violence, the gang violence. There are so many arrests happen, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. People are scared. Mostly the parents who have teens in their houses are very scared about their future, and what measures the government is going to take to control these crimes by their teens. We have a concern about the judicial system, which is more softened towards the youth who are committed crimes. That's the reason the gangs are using teens to take out these crime activities. The next question for the housing minister about, do you have any special program to entertain the modular home projects to settle down the people who doesn't have a house? Thank you.
So I can start on the crime piece. Of course, this is an area that we're very focused on in terms of youth who are sometimes just, if I can say, just entering that criminality. And that's what the justice centers and some of our approaches are, to find other pathways for youth, if we can intercept them early enough, to make sure that they're, whatever reason it is that's drawing them to that lifestyle, that we have an ability to give them the tools to make alternate choices. And because we know that once they're involved and exposed, they often feel trapped. They escalate their activity, and that spills into the community in many, many ways. We're all parents, all concerned about our kids, and what's happening in the world out there. And I would love to have a conversation with the federal government about turning the dial. We're in a position where it's very difficult to have that conversation because they're so focused on their own self-inflicted nonsense. And we really have to make sure that the youth have real consequences for the things they do, but at the same time have the supports to create an alternate lifestyle if they're willing to do it. But there's no doubt that it's having an impact in our communities, and gang activity is prevalent. Not just in the Tamil community, obviously, but you're clearly seeing it there. And I've had this conversation with Vijay Thanagasalam about what's happening in his communities. So I'm validating to say your read is 100% right, and we've got work to do.
Thank you very much, Minister. Do you have any special programs to educate the parents about what's happening here and what are the support system out there to help them?
I mean, we do try and do outreach. Whether one of the tools, and this is right back to where we started the conversation, is having the police in the school space, having the police available for the community to talk about linkages and again pathways out. So they're often the front line on most of this, as opposed to by the time you're talking to a judge or you're talking to a prosecutor, you're into a different space. There's no, the education needs to be done ideally to avoid all of that. So between Minister Parsa and Community Services and the Solicitor General and the policing, that's the space where there are some programs. There's safety villages, that deployed in elementary schools. There are DARE programs if some schools run those. So there are some, but again, I think parent community groups, if they approach us or approach the police, be happy to talk about what possibilities there are to deal with and avoid some of this.
Okay, thank you. I just have Andrew here keeps muting, so I just wanted to, I think you have one last quick question and then we will wrap up.
Yeah, good morning. Am I audible?
Yes.
All right. This question is for Minister Attorney General. Good morning, sir. This is Andrew Malik from Voice of Toronto TV. I'm going to want to draw your attention to a very, very important area. I've done actually some investigations on this as well as our television. And the correctional facilities in Ontario, they have been cramped for years with their spaces. And also a lot of offenders at the facilities also, they've been awaiting trial for months. I want to know that the Premier is very vocal about bringing the justice system and clearing out the backlogs. What have you done since you have taken the office to look into this matter and to expedite the trials where people who are not been given the opportunity to have a trial or an early access to our trials? Can you kind of elaborate on that, Minister?
Yeah, this is a big. We could have an hour on this, to be honest. So I'm going to give you some high level pieces. So we've invested in every part of the system, whether it's building more capacity in jails, adding judges, adding hundreds of prosecutors. Just last week, we made another change to legal aid for those who are accused, and that change to legal aid currently, if you're an individual and you make over $19,000, you can't get legal aid assistance. We've changed that. It's now $45,000. We want individuals to get representation and not clog up the system in terms of getting caught up in a foreign space. And so we're making significant investments to deal with that. Last year was the first time in well over a decade that we cleared more cases than we took in. And so we are right-sizing the process to make sure that we're getting people trials faster. There was a backlog when we came into office during COVID. At the height of COVID, of course, it got worse. We have taken down that COVID backlog by 50% to date, and we're on track to clear into next year. So we're putting real money in. We're changing systems. We've done remote bail and remand, which has helped individuals get hearings faster. We've done over 5 million online hearings since we put it in during COVID. So we're putting a lot of effort into making sure the resources are there. And again, that's one of those things where we're starting to see it bear fruit. We don't want people sitting in jail any longer than they need to be or they should be. We want the hearings and we want answers, whether they're guilty or not guilty, so that they can move on and we can move on.
All right, thank you. So with that, we will have to wrap up for the day. Thank you everybody for joining. I'll just actually pass it back over to Minister Calandra and then finally Minister Downey. Just if you had any final words, and then we will close for the day.
No, all good. Happy holidays, everybody, and look forward to seeing you early in the new year.
Have a great end of the year, and we'll see you next year.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day and have a great holiday.